All right, so what we've been exploring this week is the wonderful world of quadratics, okay? So this is the next step to that wonderful world of quadratics. All right, you have done this before. The part that we're going to add into it now, because yesterday was section 4.6, right? Today is section 4.7. The part we're going to add into it is the eyes. That's the part you haven't seen before. Okay, so we're going to add that piece to our repertoire today. Okay, so basically we're going to ask ourselves, how is the process of completing the square used to solve quadratic equations? There's a number of ways that we can use to solve quadratic equations. Factoring is one of them. Okay, we saw that earlier this week. Completing the square is a tool. It's not necessarily the best tool for solving quadratic equations, but I teach it. Okay, and then there's another one that we're going to learn next week. Okay, or that you already know it, but we're going to learn it again next week. Okay, so the first part of this, we do this with roots, and it's kind of the baby step to solving quadratic equations, or solving with completing the square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this side over here. Okay, so we're going to use our good old, what kind of factoring is it? Magic X. And you know you're going to use this because it gives you this to you in the instructions. Okay, so we're going to use the good old Magic X. So two numbers that multiply to 16 and add to negative 8. What are they? Negative 4 and negative 4. Okay, so we want to be super cool. I'm going to force you to be super cool on this one today. So I want you to write that as x minus 4 squared. Do you see where the square root's going to come in now? They want me to solve this. We saw some like this last night on the homework, right? Only they had eyes in them. Okay, but they were already set up like that. So this time we have to get it set. We have to do the setup ourselves. How do we undo the square? Square root. What are we going to write in front? Plus or minus. We've got x minus 4 equals plus or minus, what's the square root of 25? 5. Good. What are we going to do to move that 4 to the other side? Add it. Okay, so here's where this gets a little bit weird. You can't leave that as your answer. If it had radicals and it left a radical in it, yes. But it's got nice pretty numbers, so we would have to write x equals 4 plus 5 and x equals 4 minus 5. So what two numbers does x really equal? 9 and what? Negative 1. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one together. So what do I need to do on the trinomial? Magic X. So two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to 6. 3 and 3. Notice these are all pretty, right? And they're all the super cool ones. So x plus 3 squared equals 36. How do we undo that square? Square root, and in the front of the 36 we write plus or minus. Technically it's on the other side too, but it goes away, right? So we've got x plus 3 equals plus or minus what? 6. Good. All right, what do I do to move the 3? All right, so we've got x equals negative 3 plus 6, and x equals negative 3 minus 6. So x equals what?
3 and negative 9.
All right, I just want you to try example 3. We're going to skip example 4. So everybody's trying example 3 right now. Make sure you try it, because I'm going to probably call on somebody. Okay? Because the plus minus probably doesn't. You could put it in the back. Okay. Yeah. But you got to remember that you have to add and subtract this. That's probably why I put it. Okay. Nope, just 3. Doesn't hurt you if you started 4, but I just said to do 3. All right. Okay, so let's talk about this. We have to do a good old magic X, right? Daniela, what's going to go in the top and the bottom of the magic X? Good. Good job. All right. And then Victoria, what's going to go in the other 2 spots in there? Perfect. Good job. All right, so we've got x minus 5, and what do we have to put on here, guys? Everybody. Squared equals 1. Okay, how do we undo the squared, everybody? Square root, what are we going to put in front? Plus or minus. Perfect. So x minus 5 equals plus or minus what? 1. And these have all been nice. They've been nice squares here. That's not going to happen the whole period. Okay? How do we move the 5, everyone? By adding. Okay, so 5 plus or minus 1. So I've got x equals 5 plus 1, x equals 5 minus 1. Minus 1, not x. And I lost the 1 there too, didn't I? X equals what? 6, and x equals 4. Is it possible, could you just go to this line right here and skip this? That's fine. Or you could go from this line and go to there. If you can go plus 1 and minus 1, I'm okay with that. All right? You don't have to write every single little line, but you do need to show me your thought process. Okay? All right, skip 4. It's Friday. Let's skip 4. All right. Another baby step to solving by completing the square. Okay? This piece here is basically what completing the square is going to look like. It's going to look like this at the end of completing the square. Okay? When we do the solving piece. This is what it's going to look like at the beginning of completing the square. We're supposed to find the value of c that makes this expression a perfect square trinomial. A perfect square trinomial is one of these, when we factor it, we can put the squared on it. Okay? The ones that we are super cool to do. Okay? So then write the expression as the square of the binomial. So writing it as a square of the binomial means write it like this. So we're going to do this all at one time. So I'm going to start by writing this part. I know it's going to start with an x. Okay? So the way we get the c value, and I'm just going to put a blank there instead of a c. So draw a blank there. We're going to fill in that blank. Okay? We divide the middle by 2. So what do I get when I divide by 2? 8. That's what's going to go right here. So I've already got the square of the binomial. And then what we're going to do to it, thank you very much. That's okay. He's actually in this room over here right now. But thank you for your help. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to square it. See that little hint right there? It squares it. So what's 8 squared? 64. That's what goes here. Done. Okay. Let's try that again. Yeah, I got both things. I got the c value and I got the square of the binomial all in one shot because I was writing it down rather than having to think about it again. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's there. 64 and 16. 2 numbers that multiply to 64 and add to 16. I just cheated on my factoring, didn't I? Yeah, I call it cheating factoring because I go ahead and I do it as I'm doing the problem. Okay? Okay, I'm going to make this a blank. And I'm going to set up my binomial. Excuse me, what's going to go in the front? X. What do I have to do to this middle number to get this? What do you get? What do we do to the 7? Square it. What do we get? 49. Done, right? Got everything I needed. Okay. All right. I want you guys to try just 7. We're going to do 8 together, so you still need 8. Just try 7 right now. All right, give you about 10 more seconds. All right, I'm going to add in my blank. I'm going to set up my cheating factoring there. I know there's an X there. All right. So, Caleb, what do I need to do first? by what? 2, and what'd you get? 11. Good. All right, and then Andy, what do I need to do next?
You have to do square 11.
Square 11, and what do we get? 121. Perfect. Okay. Yes, Lauren.
Oh, so that looks really ugly. How do you write it out? Like, if we have that on a quiz, would we just leave it like that, or would we like?
Yeah, likely on a test. Probably it would be multiple choice on that particular one. When you're doing your homework, don't put a C, put a blank. Right? I don't need to see that C. If you fill in that blank, I know what you're talking about. Okay? And I'm showing you a baby step on a test. I'm probably not going to give you a question like this. I'm going to give it to you in the completing the square that we're going to see in a couple examples. Okay? I'm trying to build it, right? So we're not learning all of it in one thing, making it too complicated. We're going to learn each little piece. Now here's the thing. Have you noticed that these have all been nice, pretty even numbers so far? Yeah. What if it's an odd number? Okay, so let's look at what happens. All right, no, but see, here's the thing. I've set it up for you where we can cheat on the factoring, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to make it a lot easier on us. So set up your cheating factoring. Okay. Write your blank. All right, what is the rule? What are we supposed to do with the middle? Divide it by 2. So I've got -9 halves. So really I didn't want a plus in there. I should have just left it blank until I got the, let's fix that up. I'm going to make it -9 halves. You keep whatever the sign is in front there. Okay, were they all pluses so far? Yeah, they had been all pluses. Now the rule is I'm supposed to square this, right? So what's 9 squared? 81. What's 2 squared?
4.
Well, aren't you glad we didn't have to do this? Right? Yeah, aren't you glad we didn't have to try to factor that? Yeah, so that's why we do this the way I'm showing you. Am I going to try to give you a ton of odd ones? No. But am I going to be able to avoid it completely? No. Okay? So they're going to be there a little bit. All right, everybody fill in the blocks. This is our official, if you need to go back and remember how to do it on your homework box, there it is. Okay, so these are kind of the steps. Obviously, after you square it, you've got to solve it. Once you square it, you kind of have finished completing the square, and then you use your other algebra methods to solve. So, we haven't seen one yet where the leading coefficient is not 1. If it is not 1, then you divide everything by that leading coefficient. We'll get to one of those, okay? I want to work up to that point. You always subtract the third term or the constant from both sides if there is one there. Sometimes there isn't one there. Then you add in blanks, okay? Then we divide our second term or the middle by 2, and we square it. We've been doing these 2 steps, right? That's what we did in the last couple examples. And then after that, you solve it like we did in the first 4 examples, okay? All right, so let's talk about the completing the square on this. Is there a leading coefficient? No. Okay, so the next step said I'm going to take that and I'm going to take it to the other side. So, and at this point, I put my blanks in. And whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right, so we don't change the equation. So we put a blank on both sides. All right. I'm going to set up my cheating factoring just like we were doing in the last couple examples. What are we going to do to that 12? What was we doing before? Divide it by 2. What do we get? Good. And what do we do to this -6? Square it. What do we get?
36.
Remember, if we're squaring it, it's always going to be positive in this last spot, right? If we put a 36 on the left, I also have to put that on the right. What's -4 and +36?
32.
Now it looks like what we did in examples 1 to 4. See how we built that up for you? Okay, so now we're doing the whole kit and caboodle here. All right, how do we undo the squared? Square root. What do we have to write in front?
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus. We've got x minus 6 equals plus or minus. We got to do a can and a can't do box, we got to break down that 32, right? So biggest square number that goes into 32.
16 and 2.
Good. 16, how many times?
Twice.
Twice. Okay, I heard 4. 4 goes into 32 how many times? 8. See how that 8's still divisible by a square? You could break it down again. You'd have 2, and then you do 4 and 2. But you see how you're doing a whole lot more work? So you want to work towards finding that biggest square number. Okay? All right, I'm going to do 2 things at once. What's the square root of 16? 4. At the same time, I'm going to pull this 6 over to the other side. How do I pull the 6 over? Add it. And typically we see our number in front and the radical in the back. That's why I write it in that order. But it might not necessarily be wrong to write that. Okay? I can't mark it wrong. It's still mathematically correct. But I'd prefer to see this. Okay? All right. Let's try another one together a little bit faster. Okay? And then I'll have you do one on your own. Then we'll do some lead coefficients. Okay? Let's see, wait a minute. Okay, that one's still even. All right, so is there a leading coefficient? No. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to move the 4. How do we move the 4? Subtract it. So we're going to add in our plus blanks. And set up the cheating factoring. All right. What are we going to do to that 6, everybody? And then what do we have to do to the 3? All right, negative 4 plus 9 is? 5. Everybody okay with that? All right. Oh, even better. We don't have to do can and can't do box. So how do I undo the square? Square root it. What do we write in front of the square root of 5? Plus or minus. So x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 5. How do we move the 3? Subtract it. Do I have to break down the 5? Nope. Isn't divisible by a square. Remember, we're doing a quadratic. We were supposed to have 2 answers, right? Did I get 2 answers? Plus minus counts as the 2 answers. Okay? All right, everybody right now try 11. Take a minute and do 11 on your own. Okay? Okay, got about 10 more seconds and we're going to check it. Okay. Cassidy, what am I going to do first? What do I have to do to with okay, plus blank, I like that, equals, what did you end up doing?
-8.
Good. Plus blank, perfect. All right. So now we're going to set up that cheating factoring, right? Okay, let's see. Rebecca, what are we going to do next?
We're going to divide 10 by 2.
Good, and what do you end up with? Perfect. Good, and then Zachary, what am I going to do from there? Yep. So what do I get when I square it? 25. And we have to write that in two places. All right, everybody, what's negative 8 plus 25?
17.
Perfect. And then what are we going to do with the 2?
Square.
Square root. And then what do we write in front? Do I need to break the 17 down?
No.
Nope. And then how do we move the 5 to the other side?
Add it.
Add it. Okay. We good with 11?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to lead coefficients. Okay. And we've been really nice to you. It's all been even in the middle, right? I have kind of avoided the fractions. So the very first step was if we have a leading coefficient, we were supposed to divide by it. So we're going to do that. Okay, so divide every single term by it. That gets rid of our lead. So I'm down to x squared. What's 8 divided by 2?
4x.
And 14 divided by 2. Now is it any different than what we've been doing for the last 3 examples? No. Okay, so let's go ahead and try, let's set up our cheating, oh wait, not set up our cheating factoring. What do we do with the 7 first? Subtract it, put in the plus blanks. Okay, and then we're going to do what with the 4? Divide it by 2. What do we end up with? 2. What do we do to the 2? Square it. Add it to both sides. So it's negative 7 plus 4. Good. Oh boy. We got a negative. Okay, so we got some eyes going on now. What are we going to do to undo the square? Square root it. So here's where we just took this to the advanced math class, right? Because the Algebra 1 students would stop and not finish the problem. All right. When we see a negative under a radical, what do we do? Pluck your eyes out. What are we going to have to do with this too? Subtract it. Okay? Shouldn't be too big of a deal to add the I into stuff. Okay? All right. I'm going to have you try one on your own. You think you can do one on your own now?
Yeah.
What was the only extra step? What do I have to do first?
Divide.
Okay, so divide everything by 3 first. If we can all do this one on our own, then we'll skip the last 2. How's that sound? Because we have yet to go over the syllabus yet. Figured we could squeeze that in today.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, you mostly know what you're doing. All right, let's check it. Maria, what am I going to do first? Good. All right, everybody, when we divided by 3, what did we get? X squared plus what?
4x.
Good. Minus? We all woke up all of a sudden. Awesome. All right. Robert, what am I going to do next?
You're gonna divide the 4 by 2.
Not quite.
No, you're gonna move the 6.
We're going to move the 6 to the other side. Right idea, wrong step.
Yeah.
Okay, so add the 6. Oops. Plus blank. Okay. I don't need that little plus sign there. Okay, so we're going to set up our cheating factoring. Dum, da, dum. Okay, and what are we going to do to the 4, everybody? Divide by 2. What do we end up with? 2. And what do we do to the 2, everybody? Square it, and we get 4 to both sides. Excellent. And 6 plus 4 is 10. And how do we undo the squared? Square root. And we've got plus or minus in front. So x plus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 10. What are we going to do with that 2?
Put it on the other side and
Subtract it to the other side. And the 10 doesn't break down, right?
Yeah.
All right. Can we handle this stuff? Okay, so let's really quickly look at where the homework assignment is in haiku. So you can look at that with me. And then I want to really quick go over the syllabus. Let me hit this stop button here.